Thanks to Brilliant.org for sponsoring this video.
This is the promise. While you work to keep my home safe, Carol Danvers and I will find you a new one.
Hey, welcome to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy. Alright, we are 4 episodes into Secret Invasion, and there are way too many unanswered questions going into these final 2 episodes. Especially the most important question that the show has just sort of glossed over. Why the Skrulls didn't find a new home yet. Nick Fury and Captain Marvel promise they will help the Skrulls find a safe haven, but something prevented them from fulfilling their promise. For the last 3 decades, Fury has used the Skrulls as his personal network of shape-shifting spies. This was the deal. They help him protect the Earth and he will help them find a new home. But Fury didn't keep his word, and now Gravik is making Fury and Earth pay for that broken promise.
Always keep your promises if you want to keep your friends.
And we think the Skrulls still being homeless was deliberate. Fury didn't forget his promise, he lied to his green friends, and that's the big secret that he's been keeping all along. And it's not as obvious as you might think. We believe we discovered the real reason why Fury lied and why it's so impossible for the Skrulls to find a new home. What makes Fury dangerous is that he has a keen, analytical mind. No, it's actually more than that. Fury understands that knowledge is power. Every day he's learning something new that he can use against his opponents.
Man, I wish I could learn every day like that. I could do math and science and just be a super smart guy.
Yeah, I know, these days we're all so wrapped up in our everyday lives that it's really hard to just take the time to engage in everyday learning. But that is where Brilliant.org comes in. They're the sponsor of this video. Brilliant is a great way to challenge myself to learn something new every day, like science, computer science, or math.
Yeah, but why you want to do that? You're not even in school.
Well, because, Doug, learning math is challenging, and if I can learn math, I can learn anything, and learning is a lifelong skill. You see, with Brilliant, you can learn how to think, and you can develop these Fury-level analytical skills. See, like, I was a terrible math and science student in school. I bet a lot of you were too. But because I'm out of school, I thought I would never have the chance to learn those subjects. But Brilliant is great for understanding the world around us. I especially love logic problems and non-linear thinking puzzles, and they're built more like games than they are classroom lessons. Brilliant uses these visual lessons that make them a fun part of my morning routine. I mean, to learn anything, you just have to do it. Interactive learning has proven to be 6 times more effective than passive learning, like just watching videos. These are very fun, short lessons that are built for busy people. You interact with charts and graphs or robots or matchsticks to teach you these mathematic and logic concepts. See, with Brilliant, you learn how to think better. So to try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit Brilliant.org/ScreenCrush or click the link in the description. The first 200 of you will get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription. Now, back to Fury's plan. Back in 1995, Fury and Carol promised to help the Skrulls find a new planet.
I'll help you find a home.
Liar!
The Skrulls were in possession of Mar-Vell's ship, which had light speed capabilities, could go to the furthest reaches of space where no one had ever gone before. The Skrulls left Earth along with Captain Marvel, and it looked like they were on their way to finding a new homeworld. And yet, 3 decades later, the Skrulls are still homeless, forced to live as refugees, hiding among the humans.
So what happened to New Skrulls then? Isn't the universe like really big?
Well, Doug, that's a really good question. So, before we get to Fury's dark secret, we should start by explaining why it's pretty much mission impossible for the Skrulls to find a new home. You see, long ago, the Kree Empire initiated the war against the Skrulls, and it led to the destruction of their homeworld, Skrullos. Since then, the Skrulls were scattered across the universe. According to Talos, their race was reduced to about 1 million people, and the Kree hunted them down to every corner of the universe.
We were being hunted across the universe.
So, after Talos and his group obtained Mar-Vell's ship, their first order of business was likely to find as many Skrulls as possible to keep them safe from the Kree genocide. That must have taken a few years at the least, since the Skrulls were scattered and most of them were hidden. But apparently, the quest for new Skrullos was aborted because everywhere the Skrulls went, they were met with violence and hate.
Well, how come? What did they do?
Well, that's also the Kree's fault. They used the most powerful weapon they had, something far more dangerous than world-destroying missiles. They initiated propaganda to frame the Skrulls as evil shapeshifters. And we all know from our own human history how destructive such propaganda can be. This allows radicals to justify religious persecutions, ethnic cleansing, genocides, and holocausts.
Yeah, this is getting dark.
Yeah, but I wish the show would lean a little bit more into that, since it would have created a far more compelling story. Anyways, since the Kree are a massive empire that spans multiple star systems, the influence of their propaganda reached countless worlds across the universe. This created discrimination against the Skrulls and eliminated any chance that they would be trusted by other civilizations, which explains why no other aliens wanted Skrulls living on their planets. No matter their intentions, their shapeshifting will always create an inherent prejudice and suspicion. How can anyone trust a species that can infiltrate any planet, who can look like anyone?
Somebody in this camp ain't what he appears to be. Right now, that may be 1 or 2 of us. By spring, it could be all of us.
So how do we know who's human?
Not to mention that if any civilization did let Skrulls in, they risk reprisals from the Kree Empire. And there are already so many world-destroying genocidal maniacs to worry about in the universe, so the last thing anyone wants to do is add the Kree to that list. Not to mention that many Skrulls turn to violence themselves.
We did not end up homeless refugees because we were unwilling to wage war. We ended up homeless refugees because we were too willing.
Something that ironically confirmed the hostility toward them. Now, while beggars can't be choosers, the Skrulls wanted a home where they could live in their own skin.
Don't you want to live in your own skin?
Meaning a world with no other intelligent life forms. With no other choice, the Skrulls had to postpone their search for a safe haven and trust Carol and Fury to find them a home. And that's how the Skrulls ended up working as Fury's spies on Earth, because that was part of the deal that they made with them. Fury and Carol promised to help the Skrulls find a new home, but that's easier said than done, because they had to keep the Skrulls' very existence a secret, mostly to protect them. So Fury couldn't just tell people in S.H.I.E.L.D. about the Skrulls. That would defeat the whole purpose of them being a secret network of shape-shifting spies.
And that's why he lied.
Yes, but we're about to get to Fury's lie in just a moment. But first, let's explain why Carol failed to live up to her end of the bargain. Fury promised to help the Skrulls if they help him first. But Carol didn't make such a deal with the Skrulls. She straight up said that she will find them a home, no strings attached.
I'll help you find a home. Finish what Marvel started.
Finish it! Finish it!
So what happened? Did she kind of forget about them? Like Danny forgot about the Iron Fleet?
Well, Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet.
Well, in Carol's defense, she made that promise before becoming a galactic hero. Once she started traveling the universe, the promise went down on her to-do list. The universe is a very big place, so finding the perfect planet for the Skrulls is like looking for a needle in a haystack, and it's not like she could search 24/7. Unlike Earth, there isn't an abundance of space heroes, so Captain Marvel had to cover an infinite amount of ground all on her own. This meant that her promise was much harder to keep once she was faced with the sheer amount of other alien lives throughout the universe. Still, Carol had to encounter at least a few habitable worlds for the Skrulls. After all, space is infinite. Now, most planets we saw in the MCU are already occupied by other civilizations. That's probably because of the Celestials, since, you know, many planets contain celestial seeds that feed on life. But there are many worlds out there with no intelligent life forms, not to mention countless moons. Those can also work. I mean, how about Thanos' retirement plan? There are no other life forms on that planet, according to Carol herself.
No satellites, no ships, no armies, no ground defenses of any kind.
So that's an empty planet that looks like it would be a great new homeworld for the Skrulls. But the Skrulls settling on a Farmville would have undermined Fury's plans because he needed his network of spies, not a bunch of farmers.
But farming? Really? Man of your talents?
Finding a suitable planet that's empty of any other life forms is step one, though.
What's step two?
Well, you have to think on a galactic scale. It can't just be some random planet in the universe. It needs to be a planet that's located in a safe neighborhood. The last thing anyone wants is for the Skrulls to settle a world only to be decimated by some neighboring civilization.
So in 30 years, Carol couldn't find a planet like that? Come on, person, I don't buy that.
Well, you might be onto something. There might be something, or to be more exact, someone who made sure the search would fail.
Bitch, please.
Wait, person, before you say anything, I got an idea.
Yeah, shoot.
The Asgardians live on Earth now, so why couldn't the Skrulls do that too?
That's a really good example. The Asgardians relocated to New Asgard after losing their home.
Yeah, so just do that with the Skrulls. See, like I am solving the world's problems one at a time. Next up, climate change.
Yeah, good job, buddy. High five. But it's not that simple. The Asgardians' integration into human society wasn't a disaster primarily because of Thor. He's one of Earth's mightiest heroes. He saved the planet multiple times, not to mention the whole freaking universe. So it's kind of rude to reject Thor's people. And you know, we humans can be kind of unwelcoming to those who are different from us.
I think the American people deserve the right to decide whether they want their children to be in school with mutants, to be taught by mutants.
Plus, we have no idea how well the Asgardians were actually accepted since the MCU didn't really explore that in depth. Also, it doesn't hurt that the Asgardians look like humans, and Norway kinda had to accept them since they used to worship Thor and the other Asgardians as gods. But the Skrulls are a completely different story. First of all, the majority of humans don't even know about the Skrulls, and humanity doesn't have the best track record with aliens. If Fury comes and announces, there are shape-shifting aliens living among us, let's all welcome them with open arms and totally not lose our shit about it, that wouldn't fly. In fact, it would make things worse since there's already a long history of them infiltrating human society. No matter how you cut it, it's near impossible to trust shapeshifters, especially after what Gravik just did. Now, if only Fury had Talos join the Avengers, that would have solved a lot of problems. Also, the Skrulls' population is around 1 million. That is way more than the few Asgardian survivors. Where would you even put so many Skrulls without destabilizing the world? Relocation of regular human populations is a bureaucratic nightmare, let alone aliens.
And the people who reappeared only to find someone else living in their family home. They just end up homeless.
Yeah, well, it was a good idea. Fury could have tried it at least.
And you just hit the paw on the head. The Skrulls became Fury's secret spies. They were his eyes and ears everywhere, getting information that only shapeshifters could obtain. I mean, what better network of spies could a super spy possibly ask for? Thanks to the Skrulls, Fury rose through the ranks, becoming one of the most powerful people on the planet. Talos is pretty much the alien behind the legend. He made Fury.
Your life got a hell of a lot more charm once I came into it.
But the conversation between Fury and Talos about this shows that Nick doesn't see things the same way as Talos.
I've been cleaning up your poop for the last 30-something years.
Despite all of Fury's access and influence, he didn't live up to his end of the bargain. And the dark secret might be that Fury never intended to keep that promise. Well, maybe at first he wanted to help the Skrulls, but at some point, he decided to lie to them. We see Fury's transmission from a guy who's cool enough to sing the Marvelettes while doing the dishes.
Wait, oh yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman.
To a cynical old man who basically trusts no one.
Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye.
Fury predicted that sooner or later Earth would be invaded by aliens, so he had to take drastic actions to protect his world. He couldn't rely on Carol to swoop in and save the planet forever, and that is why the Avengers were assembled. And we know that Fury is willing to make some hard decisions to protect the world at any cost. Like using Project Insight, which was meant to eliminate any potential threats.
We're gonna neutralize a lot of threats before they even happen.
I thought the punishment usually came after the crime.
We can't afford to wait that long.
And S.H.I.E.L.D. exploited Ava Starr's condition and turned her into an assassin. I'm pretty sure that happened under Fury's watch, no Hydra. I mean, they already had their own badass assassin. Speaking of, let's face it, if Fury knew about Bucky, he probably would have used him the same as Hydra did.
Look, I didn't know about Barnes.
Even if you had, would you have told me? Or would you have compartmentalized that too?
Because once you believe that anything you do is for the protection of the world and for your species, it becomes very easy to justify using people to do your dirty work. I mean, this is exactly what allows Gravik to justify his own actions. So at some point, Fury's empathy toward the Skrulls had to take a back seat. He couldn't let them go. They were one of the best tools he had to protect the world.
S.H.I.E.L.D. takes the world as it is, not as we'd like it to be.
And Fury likely sabotaged the quest for new Skrullos. Carol was out there in the cosmos doing her own thing. She put faith in Fury to finish the job and help the Skrulls. And Fury used this trust to keep the Skrulls on Earth. The lie became too big, and at some point it became too convenient to use the Skrulls for the greater good.
You got any more abuse you want to hurl my way?
Also, the Skrulls could be Fury's ace in the hole in case things got really bad. For example, let's say a major war is about to start and it could go nuclear. Fury can use the Skrulls to replace any key figures like army generals or presidents and basically stop the war in its tracks. He could even use the Skrulls to infiltrate other aliens to get better information about their strengths and weaknesses and prepare Earth for their invasions, or simply to prevent the invasion by replacing alien leaders.
Oh, that sounds really cool. Too bad we don't see that in this show.
Well, maybe it's going to happen for season 2.
No.
But to achieve all that, Fury had to keep the Skrulls close. You know the saying, keep your friends close but your enemies closer? Well, in Fury's case, it's keep your friends / potential future enemies closer. He knows better than anyone the threat that the Skrulls could pose if they ever turned on humanity. He let them in. He gave them full access. He even had Talos pretend to be him. Besides, there's the other Skrull colony.
And every Skrull that isn't in Emperor George's colony?
Apparently, somewhere in space, the Emperor rules a different group of Skrulls. Fury had to make sure that those shapeshifters don't end up infiltrating Earth. This is why he needed to keep dripping small doses of hope to the Skrulls, so they would stay under his control and remain loyal to him.
Free, here, under my control.
But then, Thanos happened and Fury was dusted. All of his plans came crashing down, and Gravik radicalized the Skrulls against humanity. And this might be why Fury was so depressed when he came back. Not only was Thanos almost like a personal failure to him, but he also realized that for 5 years, he was not in control, and all of his carefully laid plans are falling apart like a house of cards.
But what about Talos? He's his friend, and Fury's also married to a Skrull.
Right, and this brings me back to Fury's endgame. Fury and Vara fell in love, and they even got married. Now, Fury might love his wife, but as we see in the show, they are both keeping secrets from each other. But this marriage might be proof that human-Skrull coexistence is possible. At some point, Fury might have realized that Earth could be the new home for the Skrulls. He was under no delusion that the Skrulls will ever be welcomed, not in their true forms.
Skrulls and humans can coexist here on Earth.
Humans can't coexist with each other, Talos. We've been at war with each other since we could walk upright.
As a Black American, Fury knew that change takes time, usually too much time. But maybe his hope was that other Skrulls could integrate themselves like Vara. take the form of dead humans, and maybe build a life on Earth. In fact, this might be the reason why he had Talos pretend to be him. So when eventually he dies, Talos would become the new Nick Fury. Now the Skrulls would still need to live in hiding, never being able to live free in their own skin, but at least they would be safe. I mean, Earth is safe for the most places thanks to the large population of superheroes. And maybe New Asgard is a sign that one day humanity would become accepting enough to even welcome the Skrulls in their true form.
This man is not our enemy.
Thank you, Colonel.
So ultimately, maybe Fury meant to fulfill his promise, only in his own unique way. But that's what we think is the big secret in Secret Invasion. Do you think that Fury's lying about helping the Skrulls? And how do you think the Skrulls would find a new home, or should they stay on Earth? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.